Hey there, welcome to my review of UHF, Weird Al Yankovic's movie. And this is definitely a film that's an acquired taste. I can see why this has gotten a cult following because Weird Al has got a legion of fans, and I happen to be one of them. I've always had a soft spot for this film because I remember checking out on VHS when I was a kid. I saw it on cable. I definitely do enjoy the film. I think it's not perfect. I think there are some issues I have with it. I'll get into those soon enough. But I think it's definitely worthy of the cult following that it has, and it's a really entertaining, fun movie. I personally, though, I would have rather have just been just a series of spoofs, like Airplane or Kentucky Fried Movie is a good example, or Amazon Women on the Moon, and mostly just spoofs instead of trying to be a story centered around this cable station and characters that I just didn't really honestly care for, especially with Michael Richards. I know there's a lot of people who like this character, Stanley Spadowski. Weird Al might even be one of them, and the writer and director Jay Levey, but I've never cared for that character. I thought he was annoying. I could see why the mob guys wanted to shut him up permanently. I I'd never cared for Stanley Spadowski. In fact, I just thought he was stupid, and I thought the humor just wasn't my cup of tea. If you find it hilarious, be my guest. I just thought it was just really dumb. You get the drink for the fire hose. I don't really get where's the joke. I don't get it. I don't understand. I do like the fact that him being so popular and the reason why the station is doing so well, beating out the regular network it is actually a pretty good bit of satire on the typical movie tropes that you'd see with this type of underdog story. But the kind of other than that, it's just uh, I would have rather seen more Weird Al in the second half and less Michael Richards. And I know pretty much it is Weird Al's movie. It is through the a lot of he has a lot of screen time in this, but I don't really care for Michael Richards' character. But I did like the fact that when Weird Al goes and saves him as Rambo, that was a lot of fun. But anyway, the film it's written by Weird Al, and it's also written by Jay Levey, who also directed the film. That Jay Levey had worked with Weird Al before, a lot of things. Um, Yankovic, actually, Jay Levey is actually his manager, and I think he directed a few music videos of Weird Al's. And so Yankovic and his manager Jay Levey, they had actually discussed the idea of a movie for Weird Al Yankovic around 1985, after his second major successful album. And his popularity at that time led the two to thinking what other venues would work for the musician. And the story concept they created was based on Yankovic's approach to his music videos, making parodies of other work. After sketching out a number of such parodies for a film, the concept of Yankovic being the owner of a small-time UHF station broadcasting these parodies as shows was born, as this would not require having any significant plot to string the parodies together in a manner similar to Airplane. And I would have actually rather preferred that. It was just more right off the bat, we started off the film, and it's just tonight on UHF, and then you just see all these different parodies. I would have preferred that more than what they actually went and ended up with. But I still like the film. It's just I really would love it if it was just a straight up parody like Kentucky Fried Movie or something like that. Just a serious string of parodies starring Weird Al and a few of other cast members and his friends and so forth. The two then attempted to shop the script around Hollywood film agencies for about 3 years without any luck. They were surprised when one of their agents had shown the script to the founders of a new production company called Cinecorp, who were interested in the script and given it to directors Gene Kirkwood and John W. Hyde. Kirkwood stated that he had previously seen Yankovic's videos and he wanted to make a movie with them. And so Kirkwood and Hyde had connections with Orion Pictures, who then offered to fund the production as long as they could keep it under $5 million. Because this is Orion we're talking about. And this is in 1989 when they were really pinching pennies. And the title of the film UHF was selected to refer to at the time of the film's writing the predominance of local televisions operating on ultra-high frequency broadcasts, which were typically known for quirky, low-cost production shows, which the film spoofed. However, at the same time, cable television was becoming popular and displacing UHF stations, and the meaning of UHF was being lost to the general public. And by the time the film was released internationally, they renamed it The Vidiot from UHF as to provide context to the title. Yankovic had wanted to just go with The Vidiot, but the studio felt that the tie to the original release name was needed. I prefer UHF over The Vidiot. The Vidiot is just I guess I get the title, but it just sounds like a really bad trauma movie or something. I prefer the title UHF. It works. It also is the title of the title song, which is very catchy, and one of my favorite Weird Al songs is UHF. So I'm glad it's not called The Vidiot. And in regards to casting, Yankovic was always envisioned to be the central character of the film, George Newman. And George Newman was written as a straight man with a vivid imagination as to allow the insertion of parodies into the film's script in a manner similar to the 1947 film The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And as the focus of the film was to be on parodies, George was not fleshed out beyond enough character development to drive the principal storyline. And the name Newman was selected as a homage to Mad Magazine's mascot, Alfred E. Newman, further referenced by the name of Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse. And that kind of ties in what I'm saying. Like the kind of some of the issues I have with the film, you can tell like these characters are just there's not much character development. They're just there. They're there to move the plot along, and I just it would have worked better if it was just a straight up parody for me, just a series of parodies. Just look at uh, the day of the UHF Channel 62 station. I think that'd be really fun. And then you have even more parodies than just Spatula City and Gandhi 2 and Town Talk, and you have all these fun parodies, these great, really hilarious moments in the film that, in my opinion, are a lot better than the actual plot and a lot more entertaining. And you'd have even more of them. And the part of Stanley Spadowski was written by Yankovic with Michael Richards in mind. At the time, Yankovic had been impressed with Richards' stand-up comedy and performance in the show on the show Fridays. Yankovic had also considered Stanley's part was also influenced by Christopher Lloyd's performance on Taxi, and had considered reaching out to Lloyd to offer him the part, but decided to stay with Richards due to the original premise. I can't see Christopher Lloyd playing Stanley Spadowski. I guess I can't see it. He did a good job in Taxi, but I just can't see him playing this role. And so Richards' agents had told Yankovic that he wasn't interested in the part, as Richards was at the time was suffering with about a Bell's palsy. But when they reached out to Richards again, Richards came to the set, dropping right into the character Stanley for the test read. And other principal roles were cast through normal auditions, with most of the choices based on how well the actor fit the role. For George's girlfriend Terry, they didn't feel they needed to spend a significant amount of time developing this side, as they did not consider Yankovic to be the type of actor for a romantic lead. That ties into another problem I have with the film. This whole romance relationship with Victoria Jackson, because they eventually went with her, even though Jennifer Tilly and Ellen DeGeneres auditioned for the role, they found Victoria Jackson's soft demeanor to be well suited for the role. But this character feels a little bit pointless to me, and I understand why it's there, but it just felt like padding. It felt like padding for the film, the romance to me. It just didn't feel like it was necessary. And for R.J. Fletcher, they found that Kevin McCarthy was in a similar stage of his career as Leslie Nielsen, as one of many serious vintage actors who crossed over into satire, according to Levey, and McCarthy had relished the role. And out of the few things that I like about the regular plot line, that it isn't just the parodies, it's definitely Kevin McCarthy, just over the top and hilarious. I've always been a big fan of him in comedic roles ever since I saw him in Inner Space as the lead villain in that movie. And for Fran Drescher was selected for the role of Pamela, in part for her established comedy as well as her nasally voice that made it for a humorous contrast for a news anchor. For George's friend Bob, they looked for an actor that could be seen as a friend to George. At one point, they considered Jerry Seinfeld for the role, but he had turned it down, which would have been interesting because he would have been friends with George Newman before. This George Newman, and then even George, and then you have Newman. Newman as a character in Seinfeld, and George. It's interesting. And then David Bowe had been a longtime Yankovic fan, easily fit the part during auditions. And I like him too. I like David Bowe. I liked his performance in this. him and Weird Al definitely did have some chemistry. I definitely did believe that they've been friends for a long time. Now, Philo's role was written with Joel Hodgson in mind. Joel Hodgson from Mystery Science Theater 3000. Uh, Building on Joel Hodgson's stand-up routines of using homemade inventions and deadpan comedy. And Hodgson turned down the role, feeling at the time that he wasn't a good actor. But then at the time, Hodgson was also working on Mystery Science Theater 3000. And so they'd also then they approached Crispin Glover for Philo's role, but Glover said that he only wanted to play the used car salesman and no other part, and he ended up turning down the offer. As they sought other actors, a casting agent, Kathy Henderson, offered up Anthony Geary, who at the time gained popularity due to his role in General Hospital. Geary wanted to perform the role as both a fan of Yankovic, and seeing the role as completely opposite from his normal acting. I like Philo too. It's very deadpan, weird, strange character. Um, I actually wouldn't have minded to have seen more of him in the film. Actually, I actually liked his character a lot more than, for example, Stanley Spadowski. But that's more my sense of humor, the deadpan black humor that he was going with. And Cooney was written with the intention of being performed by Gedde Wantanabe from the start, and he was great. I definitely did like, what's in the box? What's in the box? Nothing! Absolutely nothing! You stupid! And then Emo Phillips was a close friend of Yankovic, and Yankovic felt that he had to include Phillips in the movie, eventually creating the role of the clumsy shop teacher for him, which I'm glad he did, because that scene is one of the funniest scenes in the film. I laugh my ass off every time with that scene, just because just Emo Phillips' line delivery of that scene is just a laugh riot, and then he cuts off his finger, and there's blood everywhere. Yeah, it's a great bit of black humor, so to speak. Although they ended up using Vance Colvick Jr. for the hobo in the film, Ginger Baker of the band Cream had volunteered to audition for the but Yankovic and the production team found Colvick to be a better fit. And Levey himself actually appears in the movie as Gandhi in the Gandhi 2 spoof segment. And Trinidad Silva, who plays Raul, the host of Raul's Wild Kingdom, tonight we're gonna show you how we're gonna teach poodles how to fly. And sadly, he actually died in a car accident after returning home. After he performed his primary scenes, which is really too bad. I really liked the guy too. I thought he was genuinely funny. And the filmmakers had planned on bringing back Silver's character for the telethon scene, which had not yet been filmed, but they were not comfortable with the use of body doubles and dropped that idea. And I'm glad they did. And the film was actually dedicated to Silva, and may he rest in peace. I just it was a really fun character, Raul's Wild Kingdom. Um, but anyway, that's a little bit of the backstory. Now, get into the synopsis. The film centers around George Newman, played by Weird Al Yankovic. He's a daydreamer whose hyperactive imagination keeps him and his friend Bob, played by David Bowe, from holding a steady job. George's uncle Harvey Bilchick, Stanley Brock, wins the deed at Channel 62, a UHF television station on the verge of bankruptcy through gambling. And after prodding by his wife Esther, played by Sue Ann Langdon, Harvey gives control of Channel 62 to George, and George and Bob meet the Channel 62 staff, which is made up of the receptionist and wannabe reporter Pamela Finkelstein, Fran Drescher, dwarf photojournalist and cameraman Noodles McIntosh, played by Billy Barty, who I remember him from playing Gwildor in Masters of the Universe. He's definitely less annoying here than he is in that movie. And then an unnamed overweight cameraman played by Lou B. Washington, who looks like that. He looks like Max Trainer from Punch Out. And the eccentric engineer Philo, played by Anthony Geary. George attempts to introduce himself to the rival VHF network station Channel 8, but its owner, the cynical R.J. Fletcher, played by Kevin McCarthy, chases him out angrily. And on his way out of the station, he encounters janitor Stanley Spadowski, played by Michael Richards, who was recently unjustly fired by Fletcher. George offers him a janitorial job at Channel 62. Though George creates new shows, including the kid-friendly but poorly named Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse, the workload and bad debt of the station get to him. And amid the stress, he forgets his girlfriend Terry's Victoria Jackson's birthday, causing her to break up with him over the incident. And a despondent George then turns Uncle Nutsy's Clubhouse over to Stanley, so he and Bob can go out for a drink. And arriving at the bar, they find that all the patrons are excitedly watching Stanley's antics on Channel 62. Realizing they have a hit on their hands, George and Bob are revived and inspired, and they come up with new ideas for more bizarre original shows in Channel 62's lineup, all spearheaded by the newly titled Stanley Spadowski's Clubhouse. And a lot of the humor in this is definitely reminds me of Second City TV. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit of inspiration taken from Second City for the humor in this film. I mean, even the whole Channel 62 lineups, it looks like something you might see on a parody on SCTV, which SCTV was a skit comedy show from Canada that it featured John Candy and a few other really talented actors and comedians, and it was Canada's answer to Saturday Night Live, and it was all actual network show. The parodies were actual network shows, actual shows on SCTV, and Channel 62 popularity grows, and Fletcher becomes furious that a UHF station is getting better ratings than the network programming, and he learns that Harvey Bilchick is the owner of the station, and he's just gambled away $75,000 at the horse races. Fletcher makes Harvey the offer of covering his debt to his bookie Big Louie, who sounds like Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget, in return for the ownership of Channel 62, which he would then not only then happily shut it down to avoid running afoul of the FCC's duopoly rules. Um, that's exactly what he would do. The FCC has these rules where you can't own and operate two different net stations, so he's just going to shut it down and turn it into a parking lot. And so George learns of the deal and then calls his aunt, who then forces her husband to hold off and allow George more time to raise the money that Harvey owes by selling investment stock in Channel 62 through a telethon. The telethon starts off successfully, led by Stanley Spadowski's boundless energy, but Fletcher sends his goons to kidnap Stanley. Without Stanley, the telethon grinds to a halt. George then leads a group to infiltrate Channel 8 and rescue Stanley. And George goes in there, and that's where you have the Rambo parody, which is hilarious. With he dressed up in a muscle suit of Weird Al, which is made by Robert Kurtzman of KMB, which I think they actually did a pretty good job with it. I always crack up at that scene. It's just a good parody of Rambo. And then I love how it just the sequence just kind of stops, and then you just see George and Newman break down the door where Stanley is, and just going, ah, ah, who the hell is this guy? I'm your worst nightmare. Ah! It's like, okay, this is the moment where the daydreaming, he is just, the dream is over, and I thought it was just hilarious. The Rambo scene is hilarious too. I mean, the guy shoots at him, and he picks up he catches the bullets in his teeth and spits them at the guy and blows them up. Bad guy shooting at him, and he's like 2 feet away from him, and then he blows him up with an explosive arrow. So he tries to go and save him on his own, but of course he just not very successful. But Gedde Wantanabe comes in and saves the day, and his karate uh, class ends up kicking some ass, and they end up saving Stanley Spadowski. And so they return in time to successfully finish the telethon just before Harvey's debt comes due, saving the station, making a publicly owned company. Fletcher, on the other hand, finds out that the penny he mockingly gave to a beggar earlier was a rare 1955 double die cent worth a substantial fortune, which the beggar sold and used to purchase a substantial amount of Channel 62 stock, which is what ended up saving Channel 62. And then Fletcher also discovers a slanderous conversation of his contempt for the station's viewers was secretly recorded and rebroadcast by Philo, and that Channel 8 failed to file paperwork to renew its broadcast license with the FCC. The FCC then revokes his license and takes the station off the air. And as the film ends, George and Terry rekindle the relationship, while the rest of the employees and fans of Channel 62 celebrate. Along to the tune of this really rousing score by John Du Perez, who did music for the first two live-action Ninja Turtle films. And throughout the film, there are cutaway scenes that are comic homages to popular shows, through either George's imagination or shows specifically for Channel 62. I mean, the movie even opens up with a Raiders of the Lost Ark parody with a lot of fun sight gags with Weird Al. You have dream sequences, one that includes a music video for Yankovic's Money for Nothing, Beverly Hillbillies parody. in both the audio and visual style of the Dire Straits' Money for Nothing music video. And the only reason why Weird Al was able to do that is because Mark Knopfler, who's actually the real guitarist for Dire Straits, he said, okay, you can do the parody, but only if I'm in the music video parody. And so Mark Knopfler is actually playing guitar in the music video parody of Beverly Money for Nothing, the Beverly Hillbillies. Beverly, Beverly Hillbillies. And then you have fake commercials for Plots R Us, Mortuary Service, which is pretty funny. Gandhi 2, which I really love. Conan the Librarian. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you know where the certain section is? Don't you know the Dewey Decimal System? Or the whole thing is, I'm sorry, these books are a little bit overdue. Ah! It just chops the kid in half with the broadsword. This is hilarious. And then Gandhi 2, which I love. It's just like if there's a sequel to Gandhi and he was an action hero, kicking ass and taking names. And then Spatula City, Spatula City, Spatula City, and also other things like Town Talk with George Newman, which is definitely a parody of Jerry Springer, which is pretty hilarious. And this what is really what is actually pretty funny. I mean, Spatula City, I love that ad. It's so absurd. It's hilarious. It's really funny. And of course, Wheel of Fish. That's where we have that's where we have the moment when I mentioned earlier, Gedde Wantanabe. Nothing. And so the Spatula City billboard for the film was actually purchased by the production and was placed for the one shot it appears in the movie for ease of filming. And it was actually a real billboard in a highway not frequented by many travelers. And for this exact reason, the billboard was not purchased after the rental period ran out, and the company did not remove the phony advertisement. And it's actually reported that for months, after the film finished shooting, many travelers turned on the indicated exit and inquired about Spatula City. And then the ad was removed shortly afterwards, and the company began receiving complaints. That's hilarious. That's really great. People were like, Spatula City, I'm gonna go check out Spatula City. Like we've actually thought it was a real place, and we're actually gonna go to Spatula City. That's a lot of fun. Anyway, there's a lot of things about this that work. I mean, the humor, it's not for everybody. Like I said, there's some of it is really lowbrow and just kind of stupid. Some of it's just really strange. It gets a 7.0 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't know if I give it that high of a rating. I mean, I do like the film, but I think there are better comedies out there than UHF, mainly because the parodies and the spoofs are really funny. Um, I mean, but the story itself is I thought was kind of bland and kind of predictable and kind of lame. Um, it had its moments though, but I guess it hinges on if you think it's a great comedy, it hinges on whether or not you really like the story that's going on that ties in with the spoofs. If you really like Stanley Spadowski's character, you're probably gonna really love the movie. But I'm just not a big fan of that character. Just find him really annoying and obnoxious and just too really stupid. I just never found really stupid humor really to be that funny. That's just me. I've never been the biggest fan of Three Stooges, so that might be why. Um, but this could be considered stupid too. But I just laugh at this because it's absurd humor. With Cooney hosting Wheel of Fish. Ah, red snapper. Mmm, very tasty. Okay, Weaver, listen carefully. You can hold on to your red snapper, or you can go for what's in the box that Hiro-san is bringing down the aisle right now. What's it going to be? And the Phyllis is having difficulty choosing as the audience points to the box. Take the box, take the box. I'll take the box. The box. Everyone's like, yay! You took the box? Let's see what's in the box. The Hiro-san opens the box. The audience gasps. There's silence. Cooney has this awkward silence too for a little bit. Nothing! Absolutely nothing! Stupid! You are so stupid! And then the announcement for Gandhi 2, which I really, this is the kind of stuff that I really like. And this is the kind of stuff that was on Kentucky Fried Movie. You know, Catholic schoolgirls and heat. Next week on U62, he's back, and this time he's mad. Gandhi 2. No more Mr. Passive Resistance. He's out to kick some butt. This is one bad mother you don't want to mess with. Don't move, slimeball. He's a one-man wrecking crew, but he also knows how to party. Give me a steak. Medium rare. Hey, Baldy! There's only one law. His law. Gandhi 2. So, yeah, these books are a little overdue. So there's a lot of, even Philo is like, hello, my name is Philo, and welcome to Secrets of the Universe. Today we are going to learn how to make plutonium from household items. And then I really like this one. This is one of my favorite. I'm just gonna, there's other really funny lines in this. Like, Raul. It was like, hey man, this is Raul Hernandez, and welcome to Raul's Wild Kingdom. Coming to you live from my apartment. How about that, huh? Okay. The first thing we're going to do today is check out the wonderful world of turtles. This is my friend Tommy. Say hello to the nice people. Hello. Ha. Isn't he great? Okay, so the turtle is a member of the reptile family, and he's got this hard protective shell which keeps predators away. It also provides him with his own home when he sleeps. Oh, and he's got these tiny, teeny little legs that also makes him move real slow. Not too many people know this, but the turtle is also nature's suction cup. Watch this. He looks the other side of the turtle, then tosses it on the ceiling. And off camera, it makes a loud plop sound. Did you see that? It sticks. Ha! Oh, okay, yeah. What else I got for you? Yeah, check this out. This is my ant farm. Now, ants are amazing. They can carry 50 times their own weight, and they work for weeks and weeks building these intricate little tunnels. And oh yeah, they hate it when you do this. Picks at the ant farm and shakes it vigorously up and down. Oh look, they're really mad now. And then George is watching Raoul on TV with Bob. He's like, "Where did you find this guy?" I was like, "Me? I thought you hired him." For those of you just joining us, today we are teaching poodles how to fly. Come here, Foofy. Ah, Foofy, are you psyched? Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Get ready and fly. Tosses the poodle out of the window, and the poodle barks all the way down and hits with a loud thump. Oh man, you know, sometimes it takes a little longer to learn how to do it right. Okay, come on, cheer up, cheer up. Who's next? Ah, Gigi. He tosses the black poodle out of the window, which barks all the way down and hits with another loud thud. Ah, man! This is kind of like if Cheech hosted a wildlife show, so to speak, which I find pretty funny. And yeah, and then George Newman hosting a Town Talk. Lesbian Nazi hookers abducted by UFOs and forced into weight loss programs. All next week on Town Talk. And then I'm gonna one last quote. This whole scene where this is after his girlfriend breaks up with him, and so he's supposed to be hosting Uncle Nutsy's clubhouse, and he's like, "Hey kids, where you wanna go? That's right, to Uncle Nutsy's clubhouse. And boy, oh boy, are we gonna have big fun today. We're gonna have so much fun, we'll forget about how miserable we are, and how much life sucks, and how we're all gonna grow old and die someday. I wanna go home. Shut up, you little weasel! Okay, right now, I'd like to show you one of my favorite cartoons. It's a sad, depressing story about a pathetic coyote who spends every waking moment of his life in the futile pursuit of a sadistic roadrunner who mocks him and laughs at him until he's repeatedly crushed and maimed. I hope you'll enjoy it. So anyway, that's kind of how you can sum up the film. I hope you'll enjoy it. But I definitely do. Weird Al is the highlight of the film. Michael Richards, I guess there's people who really like him, and to each their own. I just care for his character in this movie. But There's a lot of pros to this film. There's a lot of things about this film that work. Quirky, hilarious spoofs of movies and television shows. Rambo, Conan the Librarian, Gandhi 2 Town Talk, Spatula City, all these different fun parodies. Weird Al's actual songs he provided for the soundtrack, Beverly Hillbillies, the music video with Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, incredibly catchy title song UHF, which is stuck in my head to this day. It's a really great title song. It's a lot of fun to listen to. The cast, great group of eccentric and extremely talented actors and actresses, including Weird Al himself, Kevin McCarthy, Weird Al, Michael Richards. He's not bad. His performance isn't bad. It's just a character I don't care for. It's just not my type of humor. Um, Victoria Jackson's there. She doesn't have much to do. But Fran Drescher was actually surprisingly not really that annoying. Same goes for Billy Barty. And Gedde Wantanabe is fun to see his little bit. Emo Phillips is hilarious. And the bit scene that he was in. And yeah, pretty good cast. The script, for the most part, mainly the parodies and spoofs are very clever and very well written by Jay Levey and Weird Al. I also like the way that they write the dialogue between the two friends, Weird Al and Bob. The two Weird Al and Jay Levey, they weave a really weird story that is both hilarious and loads of fun to watch. They even sprinkle some satire of the typical Hollywood cliches. Um, like I mentioned earlier, where they kind of break down the wall with the daydreaming and then show how if George is a badass in his daydream, but then when he kicks down the door in real life, he's just a moron going, ah! And then any scene with Stanley Spadowski being a household name, which is definitely a satire of um, the underdog, so to speak, the typical Hollywood movie cliche where they all fall in love with somebody, but this time America falls in love with a complete idiot, which is the whole point of that character, I guess. Um, Still doesn't make it funny to me. But the pacing is good. That's a pro. It moves at a rapid fire speed. It never really gets dull. It's never boring. I know the original cut was like over 2 hours. There's definitely a reason why they cut out some stuff. There's some deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. Blu-ray's kind of disappointing, and I'll get to that when I'm done with talking about the pros and cons of the film. The score, John Two Perez, I thought did an amazing job with the score. It composes some really catchy bits of music that work well with the film and are just as memorable as Weird Al's songs that he wrote and performed for the movie, especially the triumphant, rousing end credit score, the score that coincides with anything triumphant that happens when they rescue Stanley Spadowski. I really like that score by John Du Perez. And then there's a lot of things that work about this film, but there are some cons. Weak romance between Victoria Jackson and Weird Al. To me, it really didn't have that much. They really didn't have that much chemistry, and the whole romance subplot it felt tacked on and completely unnecessary. Although it did provide a fun bit of dark humor when George opens up the Uncle Nutsy's Playhouse show the day after his girlfriend dumped him, like I mentioned earlier, and as well as a decent Gone with the Wind parody at the end. But overall, I never really felt this relationship clicked. I thought it lacked a spark. Unlike Valerie Golino and Charlie Sheen in the Hot Shots films, they are great. There's just so much energy with every scene that they're in and passion. There's just none of that here, and it kind of felt like the studio just you need a romance for some reason, and it felt like padding. Stanley Spadowski. This is not the popular opinion, but this is my opinion. Michael Richards' performance is fine here. It's just a character I don't really think this character is funny. I just think it's complete random stupidity. You get a drink for the fire hose, and watch me pull shit out of my nose. And I didn't get the point when I was a kid, and I still don't to this day. This character was just not funny to me. I thought he was annoying as hell, and no wonder the mob guys wanted to shut him up. And the fact that it became the most popular part of the Channel 62 lineup, like I was mentioned earlier, is actually the funniest thing about his character because it's a parody of the typical hero trope that you see in a lot of films with this plot line. John Paragon as Fletcher Jr. Oh my God, what a fucking awful performance! It is absolutely horrible performance. If it was just supposed to be acting so bad that it was funny, it didn't work for me. The character also sucked. He was a brown noser, kiss ass. The acting was faker than his acting. His performance is faker than a $5 would. I mean, there's a $5 bill exists, but it's faker than a $3 bill, and it was just a very lame performance, a lame character, just a whining, annoying character that I did not like any scene that he was in. And the story. I know I said the screenplay was a highlight, and it is, but mostly the spoofs and parodies, and a few moments here and there. But the story itself is pretty cliched and predictable, but it could be worse. And like I said multiple times, I would have rather seen more parodies and less of the bland story. But for what it was, it worked all right. I think it hinged on Stanley Spadowski a bit too much near the end, though, and I would have preferred to have seen more Weird Al at the end and more of his parodies and less Michael Richards. And I personally think the whole film should have just been a bunch of parodies, like the Kentucky Fried Movie or Amazon Women on the Moon. A night, just show us a night of UHF television on Channel 62. Kind of if there was an SCTV movie, that's what that's what this could have been. Also, what I think it should have been. But that's pretty much that's it for my thoughts on the film. I'm gonna give my final rating on it in a bit, but I'm just gonna talk about the Blu-ray real quick. This is the best that the film's ever looked. But if you have the DVD already, unless you're a super big uber fan of this film and big Weird Al fan, you don't really need to get this Blu-ray because the only features it adds are the same features that are on the original DVD, which has the original cover art. It has the audio commentary that was on the original DVD from MGM, the deleted scenes that were on the DVD from MGM, hosted by Weird Al, which is a lot of fun, but it's an old feature. Behind the scenes footage from the original DVD. Music video, I think, was from the original DVD as well. Production stills. I don't know if those were from the original DVD, but you can find that stuff online. Easter eggs, which is just some dumb stuff where from the DVD, where if you flip the disc over, Weird Al says there's some features. You need to look on the other side of the disc in order to see the features. This is kind of a really dumb Easter egg. Promotional materials, some reversible cover art, and the only new thing is a retrospective panel from the San Diego Comic-Con from 2014, but it's disappointing because it's not a retrospective panel on the film. It's just a open Q&A, a little bit of talking to Weird Al about the movie, but the only things you learn about the film are that there was a different fit, something about the Wheel of Fish, and whether or not Weird Al would want to do a sequel. He says he wouldn't want to do a sequel to UHF, but he'd like to do another movie, but not a sequel to UHF. But that's it. The rest of it is talking fans asking him about his new album, asking him about his past albums, asking random questions about Weird Al, and it's entertaining. It was interesting, but it was disappointing because this is the 25th anniversary edition, and I thought they were going to have some new stuff. I thought the panel was going to be all about UHF and not just all about just Weird Al everything, and it was disappointing. And all the information I got it off Wikipedia from an article, which I'm going to put a link down below, which I don't know why they didn't post this, they didn't record this interview from the AV Club with Jay Levey and Weird Al and put that on the Blu-ray. So yeah, Blu-ray's kind of disappointing, but I'm so glad I have it because I don't have the DVD, so I'm still glad I have it. And when the film came out, just before I give my thoughts, my final rating on it, to hear what other people thought about it. Roger Ebert, he gave it a decent rating. Like he liked the parodies, but he didn't think the story was that great. The stuff that was not dealing with the parodies. So the actual story wasn't really that great, but the parodies were fun. And I do, in a way, for once, actually agree with Roger Ebert on that. But according to Yankovic's Behind the Music episode, UHF enjoyed one of the most successful test screenings in Orion Pictures history. Orion Pictures released UHF on July 21st, 1989 as a hopeful summer blockbuster, hoping that it would pull them out of the water. And however, the critical response is negative, and it was out of theaters by the end of the month. And the film has been compared to Young Einstein, which similarly scored well with audiences, but failed to make a critical impression. I don't care. I don't care for Young Einstein. I don't care for anything Yahoo Serious is in. But I I I I, I like UHF, but I don't get the comparison between the two. I really don't. But that's just me. Um, Weird Al has more talent in his left nut than than Young Einstein ever had. But Yankovic himself has stated that it was not a critic movie, and that he states in the commentary of the film that UHF was thought to be the movie that would save the studio for Orion, which is actually kind of funny. And then he was treated very well because of this. He states in the commentary, every morning I would wake up to fresh strawberries next to my bed, and then when the movie bombed, I woke up and no more strawberries. So, yeah, I just thought that was kind of a fun little bit of info about the reception the film got. How Orion actually thought this was going to be the film that was going to save them. Shows you how much Orion was in dire straits in 1989. I really don't know what to say about UHF except if I was going to rate it out of 5 stars. Like I said, there's only a few that I don't care for the Stanley Spadowski character. I think the story is kind of weak. The romance is weak. Feels like padding. But overall, I like a lot about this film. And the parodies are great. The parodies are fun. Weird Al, it's a weird movie. It's weird just like Weird Al. And if you're a fan of Weird Al, you definitely have a fun time with this movie. And I definitely do enjoy it. And I definitely do think it's a good comedy. I don't know if I call it great, but I think it's good. And that's I don't and if I was to rate out of 5 stars, I give it 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 stars. Really solid, fun, entertaining comedy. And I would love to see another film with Weird Al and more of just a straight up parody film. Just straight up parodies. If he's gonna do another movie, I would like to see it just be a bunch of parodies, new parodies, music videos, skits, and so on. But anyway, I've talked your ear off enough already, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review / retrospective on UHF, and I will see you guys later. See ya.